Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a warm welcome to you all joining me for another precious metal ramble. Now today we are sponsored by Gold Mining Incorporated, who are a North American precious metal mining organisation, and all of the links to their website, corporate presentations, and everything that we're going to be covering in today's video can be found in the description box below, as well as my sponsored video disclaimer. So, junior mining is a topic that I have touched on very briefly in the past, but I still get a lot of questions asked about it from my subscribers in comment sections on other videos. It's most certainly a way to think about investing in these precious metals in a non-traditional way. Now, a lot of people think holding the silver and gold that is in this world is the only way to invest in it. But ultimately, the silver and gold has to come out of the ground at some point. The raw material doesn't quite look like this. This is all refined 999 gold and 999 silver. But ultimately, it still comes out of the ground. It is a real, tangible thing that's there in the ground. And there are a whole host of different companies and organizations around the world that are bringing it out of the ground and bringing it to the fore. And with the demand that's increasing and growing over this crazy world that we live in, both industrially and also now with the uncertainty of life generally and inflationary woes and things like that, there is no doubt in my mind at least that precious metals are going to be going up in demand and of course value. And when value and money is involved, when this stuff starts going up and up and up in price, it's going to be more lucrative and more attractive for mining organizations and gold, silver and copper precious metal refiners to take it out the ground. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump over to the corporate presentation for Gold Mining Incorporated, and we'll have a look about some of their bits that I've seen. It's certainly not a financial advice style video. I'm just presenting some of the information that they've got there, but it certainly has got me thinking about different ways to invest in precious metals that are non-traditional, non-physical stuff. So we'll head over to the presentation now and have a look and see what they've got to say. So here we are over at the corporate presentation for Gold Mining Incorporated. There's a link to their website as well as their ticker codes here. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire presentation page by page. I want to focus on a few of the little things that I think really sit out to me that back up, I think, a lot of what I think will happen in the future, where gold will go up in demand, and that will position Gold Mining Incorporated and others that bring this stuff out the ground in quite a good way. And the first little slide that I want to show you here is just to really showcase that the focus for Gold Mining Incorporated has definitely been gold. You can just see here the commodity exposure potential for silver and gold, with silver at 1%, gold at 81%, with copper coming in second at 18%, which I find fascinating because you do see a lot of these mining corporations out there, their focus is very much on copper or nickel or tin or other just general base metals that have much more volume, and the volume there is what generates the most income, of course. And for Gold Mining Incorporated, I guess the clue's in the name. They are there for the gold, and that's their primary focus. What I find most interesting is across their entire project portfolio, they've actually got, from measured and indicated, more potential gold coming out of the ground than they do silver. Now, traditionally, silver being a less rare asset than gold, it would be, a lot of people use the ratio of 8-to-1 that it comes out the ground. But these are not the case here for these particular projects, and across their whole portfolio you can really see that the primary focus is of course gold. Now, one of the other charts that really struck my interest was this one here, which is a chart showcasing the total gold reserves of selected companies over time, with millions of ounces here. Now, these are not, of course, all of the mining companies in the entire world. That is important to remember, but I think it does demonstrate quite an interesting trend. Now, you've got to look back here to 2009, 10, 11, 12. What was happening at this particular time? Of course, gold and silver were going up and up in price, and we saw some huge prices at the time for those metals. Now, it's only natural when prices for commodities go up that the producers of those commodities will start bringing more of it to the market. It's a simple supply and demand thing. If supply is low and demand is high, the price goes up, and then you can meet the more demand that comes from that with increased production. And then you've only got to look at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and just think, well, what was happening there? Of course, there was this huge decline and then bottoming out of gold and silver. So these organizations, rightly so, that operate often on sort of, 10, 15 year kind of production cycles and R&D and research and infrastructure construction and all of this, they have, of course, dropped off. Now, what I find quite interesting is we don't have, of course, the bars for 21 and 22 on this particular chart, but I can bet my bottom dollar that those are going to be going up. The crazy world that we live in, the demand that we are going to see over time for gold and silver, and remember copper as well as a really valuable industrial metal, I think are going to speak volumes. So for a company like Gold Mining Incorporated that has a lot of inferred value from a lot of their holdings that they've got, you've only got to go back to this chart and remember that they are looking at an indicated 12.5 million ounces or potentially inferred 13.5 million ounces of gold on their claims. That's going to set them up quite well over a long period of time to bring it out the ground to meet this growing demand for gold and silver in this crazy modern world that we are now in. So the one project that I do want to focus on, I mean, as you can see, there's a whole host of different South American projects in here as well that we could sit at and look at in more detail. I will touch on one of them, but first up I want to show the Whistler project, and there was a particular slide, this one here, that I really wanted to look at. So for those that don't know, Whistler is in Alaska, traditionally quite an inhospitable and not particularly friendly place for infrastructure construction, for mining and drilling and everything. It's an interesting project simply because of the yields that's coming out the ground. So we see here grams per ton of gold, half a gram, and 2.19 grams per ton for silver, with of course a lower percentage of copper as well. So I find that really quite interesting that we have got a kind of 4-to-1 just about ratio for silver to gold, which is of course far stripping away from that traditional 8-to-1 that we have seen in the past or have had indicated to us in the past. But just from this one particular claim here, there could be upwards of 4.67 million ounces of gold that's in this claim. And with it being situated as you can see here, not a million miles away from Anchorage, there are good potential infrastructure links. It's not something that's at the top of the icy north of Alaska. It is a potentially quite yielding and good project, and it's an area that's had some really really good yields from gold in the past from other projects, as I have researched. So I think that's quite fascinating. But then we come down to some of the other projects. So I'm just going to have a look at one of these ones here in South America. And the gold potential yield per ton, you can see here, 1.55. That's 3 times what it was for Alaska, which I think is fascinating. So again, focusing on the actual gold mining rather than all of the other things that come out. A lot of the time, as I said, it is a secondary fiddle. It is this byproduct of other parts of mining operations. But to really have this focus on gold, I think is quite interesting. So from my perspective as, a kind of gold and silver bug, as a layman that's looking at all of the, some of the bigger parts basically, junior mining stocks do form quite an interesting potential. So let's head back over to the table with the shiny things and have a little bit of a sum up on what we have learnt. So I found that quite interesting and quite enlightening really, and it puts a lot of things in perspective really about this whole world that we're in right now. And investing in the kind of raw material that's sort of sat in the ground, putting that kind of claim, that stake in the ground, so to speak, I think is quite interesting, and it certainly sets Gold Mining Incorporated apart from some of their competitors from what I can read and see from their corporate information. So it's certainly something to think about and factor in, but I do want to sort of put my usual disclaimer back here at the other end. I'm not a financial advisor, but what it does say to me is that there are a lot of different stocks and share markets out there, and this particular one that we are in, where we can see the demand for silver and gold being very high, not just from industry, but also from just general stacking and collecting. I mean, it's absolutely exploded over the last few years. We can potentially infer that there are some boom times ahead for gold and silver. I've said for a long time that I do think that over the coming decade, with the financial woes and the inflation that's now at everybody's doorstep and the cost of living increases, that we are going to see this new revolution, I think, of gold and silver being this real player in the big financial markets, and having this stuff is a great thing. But of course, there are a multitude different ways of investing in this stuff, and whether it be through a mining corporation or a junior mining corporation, which, remember, is a risky play. There is no such thing as an easy player here. But from my perspective, I do have to admit that gold mining incorporation does look like an interesting potential prospect and one to explore further and look into in more depth. So if you want to do that and want to have a good close look at all of their financial documents and informations, there's all of the links down in the description to those as well, which are fully published on the Gold Mining Corporation's website. That's basically it from me. A big thank you for their sponsorship of today's video. I hope it's been an interesting one for you all to digest and see. And if you would like to know anything more, then please feel free to comment down below. And also I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. So please feel free to comment and we'll see you on the next one. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment and subscribe for more.